my gosh. What's going on, folks? It's about time to start. All right. You want the hippie song? I don't know if I can get it quick enough. Maybe. It's possible.
Stupid fucking hippie. Take a shower, hippie. Smelly shit, hippie. Dirty fucking hippie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, Stu's got the most songs over the years.
Powered by the Zaniacs, this is the Eric Zane Show podcast.
Kenny's complaining that he doesn't have a song. I can't really plot it out. It just has to strike me in the moment. He says, Brian has one. So, you know, you know how Kenny is. He's going to sit there and cry. He's a big whiner. I love him. He's so sensitive. That's what I love the most about Kenny. Brian's rubbing it in, saying he's more loved than Kenny. No, that's not true. I love you all of my children, the same. Welcome to anybody new who is checking out the Patreon bonus podcast live. If you aren't up to speed, I get this thing going. You can see the live recording, and then I publish all of the audio on Patreon for later consumption. You can go back and get the live archive and look at those if you like, or you can go and get the on-demand audio if you like. That is all behind a glorious thing known as a paywall. Basically, I give you more podcasts each and every day, and if you choose, you can sign up for it. And if you don't, if the freebie is enough for you, that's cool too. I get it. Totally get it. That's what it's there for. It's there for your consumption. All in all, it's part of the big picture, and that is getting more and more people to the party. Thank you if you are checking out the Eric Zane Show Patreon bonus and have not done so in the past, or if you just like the freebie from time to time. Okay, so I forgot to mention this in the freebie. This sure was awkward. Oh, my God. We are, Diana and I are walking down the street, and she has 2 dogs, and I have 2 dogs. We're taking them for a walk yesterday. And volume up. You say you need more volume? Is that right, Kenny? Let me know, buddy, if that's good. If that's good or bad. I don't want to screw anything up for anybody. I've been having tech issues left and right. Let me know if that's better. Mucho better, he says. Thank you. Walking the dogs. She has Benny, the one-eyed wonder dog, and Daisy. I have Bruce and O'Neill. Bruce and O'Neill aren't really part of this story. There's a guy who's visiting my neighbor. He doesn't live in the neighborhood, but he's visiting. He sees us walking, and I hear, boy, you got a lot of dogs there. Which, by the way, I think we're breaking some type of homeowner association rule. I think you're only supposed to have like 3. So, doing our thing. Hang on. Now I can't hear. Hopefully that isn't too loud for you. Let me know. And he goes, hey, are they friendly? Now, they are, but the one thing we shouldn't be doing is we shouldn't be walking up to the stranger with Benny. Hold on. All right, guys. Sorry about this. I apologize. Free Patreon Friday, and I'm making an ass of myself because I can't get my tech in order. All right. Dude comes walking up to us. Dog's friendly. Yeah, sure. Diana goes walking up. Benny and Daisy, if there's someone trying to pet those dogs, they fight. And Diana knows this. This is why I was surprised that she did this. Sure as shit. Stranger standing right there. The dog is Daisy, the bulldog's getting pet by the guy. And then the dog, Benny, starts to like nose in because he wants some love. So the guy starts petting Benny. Daisy takes her head and hits him with her head. Hits Benny. Benny's like, what the fuck? So he kind of nuzzles in a little more. Daisy does it again. This is all happening in front of strange dude we don't know. Daisy hears that. She goes after dude. And then, boom, it's on. It's a shit-kicking dog fight, snarling. They're on their back legs. You know. And this guy is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So now I got to break him up. Now I know how to break up the dogs now after being bit more than once. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. And the only right way is by grabbing the back legs of one of the combatants and removing the dog from the fight, okay? But I'm holding on to two other dogs. So what do? I say, while they're fighting, I go, do you mind holding on to these two dogs, holding on to this leash, which has two dogs on one leash? That would be Bruce and O'Neill, the calm ones. I go, do you mind hanging on to this, please? I'm real calm. And he goes, yeah, no problem. He grabs it. I go over. I grab Benny's back legs. I pull him away from the fight. Daisy's like, her eye is like Benny's bit the shit out of her face. It's just gnarly looking. I'm like, oh, fuck. Man, I'm like, we are a menace. We are an absolute menace. And I think we as dog owners need to be smarter about this. From now on, I said to Diane, I go, from now on, if we're ever faced with someone that is approaching the dogs, well, in general, I don't want anybody approaching the dogs, even if they say, because a lot of times people walk up to me, and while they're walking up to me, they say, are they friendly? Now, at this point, they're all four are lunging at the person, which is hard for me because I can't control 250 pounds of dog. So that's a big problem. So from now on, I'm just going to say, this is not good. This is not going to end well. It's just too many dogs. I'm so sorry, but I got to keep moving. I'm just going to start to do that. No more petting the dogs. If you're in the neighborhood and you happen to be listening to this, and I doubt there is because across the country it's only like 250 of you, stay away. Do not come near us. Let me walk the dogs in peace. It's too much dog to handle. I probably shouldn't have 4 in the first place, but I do, so we got to deal with it. But this poor guy's like, what the fuck, man? I'm like, oh, shit. Bring the dogs home. Bruce has been outside for half an hour, peeing all over the neighborhood. He walks into the house. My coat is on the ground, and he pees on my jacket. My God. Look at him. He's in the shot right now, sleeping. Come on. Kenny says, I'm going to visit and pet all your dogs one day. I don't mind if you do it at the house, just not when I'm walking around, okay? And they know to bite you. They know your scent. They know the scent of the zombie man. Get out of here. All right, in my neck of the woods, there is a really intriguing weirdo case that is being discussed, and that is of a local professor, a local professor of the community college in town who, like 6 months ago, his 16-year-old autistic kid drowned in his backyard, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, the cops go over to the college that he works at, and they arrest him, and they say that he had something to do with the kid being dead. Listen to this.
County now facing charges in his teen son's drowning. Timothy Coates, a professor at Grand Rapids Community College, was arrested on campus today.
And that's where News 8's Jacqueline Francis is live with the latest on this disturbing investigation.
Beth Mowins.
And Jacqueline.
Marley and Brian, as you said, the GRCC professor was arrested right here on campus just earlier today. But for investigators, this was a move 7 months in the making.
I can't take it. Do you hear what I hear when she's speaking? Investigators. She's really, I don't know. There's something going on with her voice. Investigators. Oh, shit. Now this damn story started from the beginning, and now there's an ad. Fuck. See what happens when you make fun of somebody? All right.
Disturbing investigation. Jacqueline.
Investigators.
Marley and Brian, as you said, the GRCC professor was arrested right here on campus just earlier today. But for investigators, this was a move 7 months in the making, telling me from the very beginning something just didn't feel right. Going back to the day the suspect's 16-year-old son drowned in their own backyard.
To say that those facts are disturbing,
Sheriff.
I think they rose to the level of criminal charges, and so did the prosecutor.
Disturbing details that landed this father behind bars 7 months after his 16-year-old son with special needs drowned in the family's backyard swimming pool.
The victim was infatuated with water.
The 911 call came in on an icy March day.
He got caught in the middle of the pool. The cover was on, but there was quite a bit of water on top of the cover.
When first responders arrived to the home near Hudsonville, the boy's mom was trying to pull
It's like an above-ground pool.
out of the pool. Hours later, the 16-year-old was pronounced dead at the hospital. News 8 asked police where the father, 50-year-old Timothy Coates, was during the drowning. But investigators remain tight-lipped due to the ongoing investigation, only saying it's what Coates did or didn't do leading up to the drowning that led to his arrest. The suspect home at the time of the drowning?
So I'm not going to get into that specific element, but at some point he was home during that day. As to what transpired and who was left in care of the child, that's very intricate to the criminal case.
Coates is facing charges of manslaughter, second-degree child abuse committed in the presence of another child, and fourth-degree child abuse. But he's not the only family member being investigated. Police say more charges, possibly against the victim's mother, could be filed in the future, as they won't close this case until there's justice. We expect to learn more about the shocking and disturbing details in this case as it unfolds in court. Meanwhile, we reached out to Grand Rapids Community College for comment. They did confirm that Coates is an associate professor here, but have nothing else to add at this time. Reporting live in Grand Rapids, Jacqueline.
Beth Mowins. Thank you, Beth. Wow. So, but they don't know shit here. That's what's interesting to me, that no one's really talking about what's this guy really accused of. There is a student publication, an online Grand Rapids Community College publication known as The Collegiate. And a student reacted to the story about this professor getting charged. And I'm not quite seeing the connection here. This kid, Chris Talbot, wrote this piece about the professor, about what he felt. But he doesn't really base it on anything particular. He's just going on kind of like a notion, which I think can be a pretty tricky business if you're just saying, yeah, I had a feeling that he did something wrong. Shortly after a Grand Rapids Community College professor was arrested on campus grounds in connection to his autistic son's death, a former student reflects on his experience in the instructor's virtual class. Chris Talbot, student to Coates' online database design and development class last spring when Coates' son was found unresponsive in the family pool in Georgetown Township. According to the sheriff, I'm still shaking, Talbot said. That's messed up. I was thinking back to when it actually happened, and it seems strange to me, he said. According to Talbot, following the drowning of his sons, Coates sent an email to his students describing what happened. From the letter, I wanted you to know this because the report went out on the news that an autistic boy was discovered by someone and that relatives were at the house at the time. Coates stated in the email that was later posted on a GoFundMe.com. It makes it sound like he wasn't being watched by anyone. The reality was my daughter knew what was happening. That's the boy. Sam climbed in the pool. I'm sorry, that's the daughter. Sam climbed in the pool and she did her best to try to get the son out. We always have somebody watching our boy, but it wasn't meant to be. And now Sam is home with the Lord. Oh, I'm sorry. Sam is the boy. Sam passed. He's free from the dreaded autism that frustrated him all of his life. Within the email, Coates added that after life-saving measures had been conducted for nearly 90 minutes, hospital personnel suggested they terminate aid, ultimately giving the decision up to Coates. I told them to cease, and then I knelt down, held my son's hand, and wept. The email seemed odd to Talbot. Let me just read to you the email. I couldn't figure anything out that seemed odd about this, and I found it pretty reckless that this Talbot would then publish this to the student newspaper, whatever, considering he said he led the second this guy was arrested, this Talbot posts a letter saying this seems odd. Well, you don't know shit. Nobody knows. You heard the sheriff saying he wouldn't reveal anything. All we know is that this professor has been arrested and charged, but no one knows anything. Today, the professor Coates shared with the students that he lost his son this past week and may be out of office to make funeral arrangements. His son had severe autism. Here is what he shared with the students. Hello, students. I have some very sad news to share. As many of you know, I have a son who's 16 years old and has severe autism. He has never spoken, and we've never been able to toilet train him. He's a gentle, loving boy, but he needs continual supervision and care. He further explained how his son Sam accidentally drowned in their closed backyard pool. He was being supervised by Professor Coates' daughter, who ran into the house to get Mom because Sam had stepped into the pool walking around on top of the cover. Professor Coates was on campus for his office hours. He explains, well, Sam had been under for several minutes, and Michelle finally managed to pull him out and tried to clear his lungs to perform CPR. Meanwhile, the paramedics came and immediately began working on him. Meanwhile, I was at work, not aware all this was happening. You notice... he says he was at work, and then the reporter that you heard, Beth Mowens, asked, was he at home? And they didn't indicate, so we don't know. So maybe she thinks he was lying. I'm not really sure. Meanwhile, I was at work. And I called home, and I found I turned white as a sheet. I left school immediately and drove home. It was the longest drive of my life. As I approached my house, there were police cars and medical vehicles everywhere. Well, that should be easy to vet, shouldn't it? I mean, the emergency personnel would see the guy drive up, right? As I approached my house, there were police cars and medical vehicles everywhere. An ambulance had just started driving away, and I knew it was my son. We ended up driving down to Spectrum Children's Emergency. After almost 90 minutes of trying to resuscitate him, they suggested it was time to discontinue and awaited my decision. I told them to cease, and then I knelt down, held my son's hand, and wept. I wanted you to know this because the report went out on the news that an autistic boy was discovered by someone and that, quote, relatives were at the house at the time. It makes it sound like he wasn't being watched. The reality was my daughter knew what was happening. Sam had climbed in the pool, and she did her best to try and get him out. We always have somebody watching our son, but it wasn't meant to be, and now Sam is home with the Lord, free from the dreaded autism that frustrated him all of his life. As you can imagine, we are devastated as a family, and today are kind of numb trying to process all of this. We loved him very much and always did our best to care for him as best we could. We are working on funeral arrangements and such, which will be next week sometime. I'm not sure at this time. What I'm going to do as far as my classes go, I'm going to contact the department and the college administration to see what we can do. So for now, just proceed as continued. I will try and answer your emails as usual, but it's going to be a bit touch and go because I'll be rather busy next week getting funeral arrangements made and all the other things we are told have to happen. Our hearts are so painfully sad. The only consideration we have is that Sam is no longer plagued with autism, and for that we are thankful, but we will miss him so very much. We know he is now in the best of hands. All right. Let's see. So I'm not sure what's weird about that, but the person, this Talbot kid who wrote the article, said, this seems odd. When the email came out, I had a lot of questions about how it came to be, how no one was able to save his son, Talbot said. The story didn't add up. What I'm questioning Talbot about is what doesn't add up. A special needs kid climbs in the pool. He has water in his lungs. He drowns. They can't resuscitate him. I don't see what's so fishy about that. And this is what drives me crazy about shit. We don't know shit. Yet he is assuming that he does with the sounds fishy and we better look into this. Now, sure, the cops did arrest the guy, but again, until this is all examined and scrutinized and let the legal process occur, it's ridiculous for anybody to say anything. Following the drowning, Talbot said, and by the way, this guy didn't make all this information known right after the drowning. He waited till all this shit comes out, and then he drops it on the world. Following the drowning, Talbot said there was a substitute professor for his online class, but only for 2 weeks. He said he was surprised that Coates returned to teaching so quickly. What the fuck? What do you want him to do, man? I was expecting him to not be there for the remainder of the semester to deal with everything that had happened, Talbot said. Due to the nature of online class formatting, Talbot said he had only met with Coates once or twice in person during office hours. All other correspondence was via email and Blackboard. He added that at the time, Coates was his favorite professor. All around, he was good. That's what motivated me to create the GoFundMe. Talbot created a campaign on GoFundMe to help cover the funeral expenses. However, as of Thursday evening last night, the campaign no longer listed on the site. Talbot stated he did not deactivate it himself. He says, I assume GoFundMe took it down, but I haven't received any info from them. So a whole lot of nothing. All you know is that 7 months ago, special needs kid dies. Dad is quick to get ahead of, hey, what you might hear is that no one was watching him, and that's bullshit. So he kind of got out in front of it. The next thing you know, he's arrested and charged with what we talked about. And you have and I tell you what, I actually credit the sheriff's department in Ottawa County for not feeding the sensationalistic machine. And, because a lot of times when that happens, now I don't know if they did it intentionally or if they did it because it's an ongoing investigation. I'm assuming that it is. But them keeping quiet about it is fair. So all I'm suggesting is people hold out judgment until they know more. But maybe I'm the only one. But like this was sent to me by Stevie, and I see Kenny. He's looking at this with a raised eyebrow, saying, "Sounds fishy to me." What sounds fishy? I don't understand what sounds fishy about it. If there was something fishy, I would be the first one to say that sounds weird. But to me, kid dying while guy is at work. I mean, based on what I know, you know the same thing I do. What's fishy about it? I have no idea. Founders is in a world of hurt. The worldwide known beverage of choice, craft brew Founders beer. They've had a license to print money, and on since they started. And I remember here in West Michigan when they began, you had this small little facility with one vat. And, that was it. And then the growth of that place to what it is now, it's a compound. You would not believe how large it is. It's one giant square city block. By the way, side note, Zane, we got 3 counts of child abuse. Yeah, I understand that. But I still don't know enough to be able to form a intelligent opinion. They think he did it, obviously, but I haven't learned anything. All I'm saying is a little bit more prudence in the community when it comes to stories like this, because the last thing you want to do is throw somebody under the bus and then you find out that they're innocent, or worse, they're locked up and then found innocent. Don't forget, this is also a family that lost a loved one here. So Founders in a world of hurt because of this story about that bullshit leaked deposition from that racial discrimination lawsuit that we talked about earlier in the podcast. Now, it seems like every day there's been something new. Wednesday, I read to you the transcript of that dude at the Founders Detroit Tap Room. The general manager is being accused of racial discrimination, and in his deposition with the person who's filing the complaint's lawyer, the dude was acting like a complete asshole when they're asking him questions like, is Mr. So-and-so a black man? They're kind of like setting him up, and he's like, I don't know. He might be. I don't know his lineage. The whole thing was weird. Back up to Wednesday's podcast if you want to get the lowdown on that, or at least read the link. Then Thursday, the news came out that Founders was backing out of a Metro Detroit big beer festival that they had been at every year since they started because it looks bad. Now, this is like all-inclusive type of thinking at Founders Beer, and it's a perfect example of how you get too many cooks into the stew and good things get ruined. And now that might be happening right before our eyes. Founders Brewing has closed suddenly. They've closed it, their Detroit tap room, until further notice. Quote, in light of the recent events and more importantly, out of concern of our employees' safety, we have decided to close the Detroit tap room starting immediately, like today, until further notice. Founders officials wrote to ticket holders for a Canadian breakfast stout release party this weekend at the Detroit tap room. I can't believe we live in a world where you make a new beer and you have a big party for the unveiling of it. I'm kind of glad that I don't drink because I would be sitting there just sitting back drinking my Budweiser or my Busch or my Labatt's and probably wouldn't want any part of this flavored candy beer. Founders is receiving backlash this week after the deposition from that racial discrimination lawsuit. In the fallout, Founders withdrew from the Fall Beer Fest. Some Detroit bars and shops are pulling Founders beer from their shelves. Uh-oh. Founders, co-founders, Mike Stevens and Dave Engbers issued a statement Friday morning, October 25th. They said, we have been advised not to talk about any of this, even as allegations have been cast in our direction. You see, they're listening to lawyers. This is a big problem. The co-founders said in a statement, but we realize we need to talk about this now. Whatever falls short, according to our culture, bringing people together and standards will be fixed. Our founders family will point us in the right direction. The statement doesn't mention the Detroit taproom closing, but does state Founders is, quote, committed to Michigan and expanding our presence to Detroit. Being sued by Tracy Evans in federal court on allegations that coworkers used racial slurs without punishment as part of an overtly racist culture. They got to get to the bottom of this. Now, unless everybody's denying it, and I'm sure that they are, but if they were to find out that even one person did this, they need to go in there and lay waste to everybody in order to save face. They continued to deny everything. Founders is in the process of being sold to Spanish brewing conglomerate Mahu San Miguel. I heard about that. Yeah, they were actually selling it. The beer company announced in August they had reached a deal for Mahu to purchase a majority stake at Founders, valued at $198 million. The fact that they, started the way I described to you, and a handful of years later, it's selling for $198 million. What? Oh, that is so awesome. Folks, have you heard about McCamey Mansion? It is described as the hardest haunted house in the world to get through. Now, when I saw this, I thought, what? Because the details said that not one person, thank you, Kenny, has ever made it through McCamey Mansion in Tennessee. In order to get into McCamey Mansion, all you have to do is give the owner of it a bag of dog food, because he has a lot of dogs. And if you make it through, he'll give you $20,000. There's a couple other hoops you have to get through to make it through the thing. You have to watch like a 4-hour video or something like that. Let's see. A haunted house that promises an extreme experience can last up to 10 hours, requires participants to be medically cleared by a doctor, and you have to sign a 40-page wager. Zaniac Andrea, is right away saying she could do it. And I don't doubt you. I mean, this is a very, very strong lady right there. And the thing is, though, when I thought, well, how scary can it be? It's a little bit more than just a haunted house. It's a torture house. And I hate that he calls it a haunted house, because it's not. You're being touched. Okay, let me just get into it. It's McCamey Manor experiences in Summertown, Tennessee, and Huntsville, Alabama, require visitors to be 18, insured, pass a background check and a drug test. Okay? A year ago, neighbors, county officials were upset after the extreme haunted house opened up for business in their area. Last year, there was a report of a woman being kidnapped. Police arrived and found a woman shivering, beaten, and duct taped in a cellar. But that's what she signed up for. A local news station reported that owner Russ McCamey, who I did reach out to Russ, and I've been meaning to get back a hold of him, but this story's kind of burning up the internet right now, so I wanted to talk about it before that. We'll offer you the cash prize to anybody who completes a tour, but no one ever has. He records each tour on video for his own protection, he says, and then he posts them online, showing everybody quitting in humiliation. Cost a bag of dog food to get in. The website warns of physically demanding environments, but McCamey says the manor is a mental game. 40-page waiver. On that waiver, it says you agree to being shocked, submerged in water, slapped, tied up. Andrea's used to all this. Or even unwanted dental work. What? Unwanted dental work? What are they going to do? Like drill your teeth? I think Andrea would really be into these shocked, well, for sure the shocked submerged in water. No, not submerged in water. Just the slapped and tied up. Andrea would be down for that. And the shaving. So that's like a normal weekend at the Andrea household. Only one person is allowed on a tour. It can last for hours, although McCamey says it never does. What does he mean by dental work? Is he hurting people? In 16 years, not one person has been able to get through it without saying, "I'm done." He makes everybody say at the end of their videos, "You don't want to do this." No one has completed McCamey Mansion. My God, man. There is a, it looks like a long video. I can't really get into it. I was going to play you something of it. But I saw one clip of a guy who was up to his neck in, like mud, like thick mud. And then they were like dumping buckets more of mud onto his face. It's getting into his eyes, his mouth, his nose. And he ends up giving up. It looked like torture to me. It looked ridiculous. I wouldn't want anything to do with McCamey Mansion. Andrea, if you're serious, we have got to get involved in this. All right? We'll go as a group. Andrea and McCamey Mansion. It would last 10 hours, though. What are you going to do? How can you possibly do that? I'm not convinced that you can do that. Nobody can do this damn thing. It's a torture chamber. Stevie says the guy is sick. I agree. I think this is a problem. Kenny said Kenny, yeah, Kenny. He listens to shit music every day. Lots of folks, they think that he's gay. Kenny, oh Kenny, yeah, my Kenny, oh Kenny, yeah. He has no penis, his legs are too short. In 4th grade, he failed the book report about Kenny. Yeah, Kenny. All right, folks, have a good weekend. I'll talk to you. I'm done.